Welcome to the Melissa Banks Show. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and I'm excited today, guys, for our guest that we have today. This show is all about celebrating the journeys of authors, entrepreneurs, actors, creatives, people who are boldly chasing their dreams, creating meaningful products and services, and inspiring others to do the same. Each episode will uncover the stories behind the successes, the lessons learned from challenges, and the advice that can spark action in your own life. So my goal here is simple, is to remind you that your dreams are possible and to leave you feeling inspired and empowered. So our guest today is Michael Cory Davis. Michael is an actor. He's a film actor. He is going to share his incredible journey with us today. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.
We're excited to talk to you because I want to start with the beginning of this journey. Did you just wake up one day and then you were this awesome filmmaker and storyteller? What inspired you, and how did you turn that dream into the reality that it is?
I started off as an actor and went to I went to performing arts high school in New York and graduated and started working immediately on daytime soap opera. That was like my first opportunity, was on All My Children soap opera. And during that time, when I was 19 years old, I kept getting pigeonholed toward the young black thug, the thief, whatever it was. And I ended up saying, okay, I don't really want to do those roles or only do those roles. So I wrote a film called Love Lost for myself and ended up shooting that movie with the money I was making from working on the soap opera and working as a waiter in a restaurant. And that movie ended up teaching me really everything about making content. I was the director, the writer, the producer, casting director, transportation, picked up, vehicles, prop master. I did have a team of people that I hired that were older than me and professionals, like a director of photography, a makeup artist, a production designer. So I was able to learn a lot from the working professionals that I hired. But really, that was the beginning, was understanding that I had to, if I wanted to see a change in the way that Black actors were being casted, including myself, I had to be the change. I had to take the step forward and make that happen for myself. And that movie created an opportunity because, of course, when you complete something, it gives you a chance to sell something or to show something, and people can see your talent. And I had quite a few people see that and gave me opportunities that ended up propelling me to come to Los Angeles. And it was here in Los Angeles that I realized that I needed to stay here, that there was an opportunity to make more happen for myself as an actor and also as a filmmaker. In regard to filmmaking and my activism, that really changed in 2003 when I was in Bulgaria making a movie for the Sci-Fi Channel as an actor. And I came across a number of young children that were forced into sex trafficking. And I ended up donating my time that I had free with a nonprofit there called Face to Face Bulgaria to meet some of these young children and just tell them my story of growing up in Brooklyn and New York in the 80s and the 90s, and really outlining, the challenges I had and how the path forward was not always straight and linear, that it was rocky. And I made a promise to a number of those kids, but one in particular, Svetlana, who's 13 years old and sold into prostitution by her adopted parents, that I would never let her story or their stories go forgotten. And I've continued that work since then. I've made Svetlana's Journey, a movie that was used to force the Bulgarian government to create its own first ever commission to combat child trafficking. I've created another film called Cargo Innocence Lost, which spoke to the issue of sex trafficking here in America. And I'm continuing my work in that arena now with Trapped, City of Angels. That's going to really be a deep and entertaining but provocative look at the world of money for sex and sex for money, and go do a deep dive into where we are as a world, really, with how technology is now blending into that dynamic. So it's been an exciting journey for me, and it's definitely filled with obstacles and some amazing triumphs.
Well, we're going to get into some of those obstacles, but I really want to highlight some of the things you just shared because I don't want them to be missed. First of all, it wasn't you just woke up one morning and you were the person and had the success that you have right now. You had to do some things that you didn't really like, but you had to see beyond where you were. You talked about being typecast. You could have made a choice to just keep going because it was work, it was money, right? Or you could have stepped outside and said, I want to do something different. And you took control. That's what I wanted people to hear is sometimes that dream that you have right there, it will require you to step out. It will require you to be uncomfortable. But during that time, it led you to some amazing opportunities and the opportunity to have such an impact on so many people. And I just wanted to be sure to point those things out because I don't want them to be missed. That the dream doesn't happen overnight and you don't just wake up and it's there, but it doesn't have to stay there. You can control it. So thank you for sharing that with us. I wanted to ask you, and that you may have just shared it with us, but I still want to talk about it a little bit. On our journey, on my journey specifically, I've been an entrepreneur for about 26 years, and a lot of things happened that led to that day that I started my own business, and a lot of things happened since then. But I had one day that I, for years, said, this is my turning point, this is my defining moment. But as I went through that journey, it wasn't one moment that changed and impacted who I am. It was many moments on this journey. So I would love for you to share a moment with us that, this was a moment that changed something within me and helped shape who I am today.
The one that there's many, right? But the one that just came to my mind organically um, is this one. So between 2003, I made Svetlana's Journey in 2003. It won the Hollywood Film Festival in 2005. And then I ended up on CNN and a number of international and national news stations and publications speaking about my work as an activist. CNN called me an accidental activist, which I thought was cute. And I started doing a number of speaking engagements at, FBI, LAPD, Homeland Security, really trying to convey to them and their audiences what I learned internationally, and then how that was also taking form in the United States. And I was doing a lot of this honestly for free. So people call me and say, hey, people would contact me and say, hey, we want to host a screening of your film with our nonprofit or at this agency. Would you be interested? So my heart was really for trying to spread awareness. So I say, yeah, sure. So I go, take part, whatever. It got to a point though, and this is the turning point, where one organization in particular in Texas, they put me on from LA to Texas. They put me on two separate flights. I think it was three flights actually, in order to try to save money, right? Like they put me on the worst flights ever to try to save money. And I get it. Everyone is, a lot of organizations struggle, whatever. But they put me on three flights. And they put me in like a pretty rundown hotel. And I had to be up and be on and whatever. And then they raised money with my film. And I even ended up paying for my own dinner. And they put, while I was there. And when I left, I remember just thinking to myself, that's it, no more. I didn't sign up. The pledge that I made didn't mean that I needed to starve in order to help. That's not what the message was, right? So a lot of times compassionate humanitarian type people feel as if we have to starve or feel as if we can't be entrepreneurial in the way we go about doing our stewardship. And truthfully speaking, we need to be, because you need to make money. You need to have money a lot of times to be able to help a lot of people. Like Oprah was probably very giving, but when she was not super rich, but now that she's super rich, she can be even a way bigger giver. So I ended up getting a publicist and told this publicist, listen, I don't have the money to pay you, but what I do have is I'm getting a lot of calls and I need someone to act as a middleman for me, in this case, a middlewoman for me, and tell people that my value is not free, that I'm going to, my starting rate for nonprofits or school or churches is going to be $1,500. But my going rate is normally 3,500. And we created a rider together for what the airfare had to look like. It had to be direct flights. It could be coach, but it had to be this type of seat, whatever. And I ended up, and then I did a deal, of course, with that publisher, the entrepreneurial side, of saying, hey, I'm going to get X amount of bookings. You can get X amount of percentage, And literally within a week, when the next calls came in, I started getting my rate. And not only did I get my rate, but I got above and beyond the $3,500 rate, and I started doing massive organizations internationally. And that's the message I would say, was for me, was the turning point, was no one's going to value you if you don't value you, right? If you don't value yourself first, then you can't put an appropriate price tag on what you're selling.
Wow. That was powerful. That was huge. You have so many people. I would have really given to have that early in my journey. I learned that, and I learned it the hard way, kind of like you did. But to hear someone say it, listen, I don't have to be broke because I have a big heart. I can have a big heart, and I can help so many more people. I talked to Lisa Nichols. I was in a training with her, and one of the things she said is, the more money you make, the more people you can help.
Absolutely.
And that is so huge. And that was huge. That was huge for me. I was jumping up and down when you were talking, because I know so many entrepreneurs early on feel like they can't say what they're worth. They can't charge what they're worth, and they're afraid to be taken as you don't care about people. And that is so huge. And thank you for sharing that. Let me reset right here for a moment. You're watching the Melissa Banks Show. Our guest today is Michael Cory Davis. Michael is a filmmaker, actor, and an social impact storyteller. Michael, let's talk about some challenges, right? On our journey, we face lots of different challenges. Nobody's journey, I don't believe any one journey is without some type of obstacles that they have to face and rise above, or allow that obstacle to stop them. So how have you been able to share with us an obstacle? It was a big thing. You had to work your way through it. How did you acknowledge that obstacle and still rise above it and not allow it to stop
you? An obstacle. I mean, it's funny how when you're asked the question, things that are happening all the time suddenly just disappear and make it hard. It's hard for you to find them. There's obstacles on a daily basis, and I would have to say one of the biggest obstacles is I would say self-sabotage. I think that's a big obstacle for a lot of us, and most people don't want to talk about it. I think that a lot of us experience, for instance, like growing up as an actor or filmmaker, right? From the people that love me the most, I heard, well, that's a stupid business. It's not for Black people. You're not going to make money. It's, you need a real job. It's not a real job. It's, all these things, right? So actors are always broke, these kinds of statements. And you start to, even as much as you may have a bat and you may kind of like try to deflect and block that stuff off, a lot of that still is going into your subconscious. And I think that a lot of times our biggest obstacle is our own subconscious. It's our own inner, it's the sponge, and it takes all that stuff in. And if you're not on a daily basis, minute by minute, in fact, squeezing that stuff out, wringing that out, and then putting that sponge in some healthier, more powerful, potent, useful water, and so that it can absorb that, right? You're gonna at any point fall victim to those fear-based low vibrations. So I would say that one of the biggest obstacles for me in the past and still today, and I think that's really for many of us, is limiting beliefs, limiting thoughts, many of which are not even our own, and then making sure that I'm constantly aware to hear them when they're coming. And then I have a skill set and a technique or techniques to dismantle them. I think that would be, I would say, a current obstacle that just popped in my head.
Oh, I love that, and it applies to so many of us, because I often say it's what's happening in here. So if people outside of you are pouring that into you, it's what you do with it. You either put it in here and repeat it and believe it, and then it stops you, or like you said, find a place to put it and then replace it with something more positive. So I
I'll give
absolutely
you
love that.
I'll give you one more.
Okay.
So Trap City of Angels, my current book, right? It's had many different iterations. So it was initially a TV. It was initially a streaming series that I wrote. Well, actually, it was initially a feature film called Close to Home that I then changed into a streaming series, but the budget was way too high. So then I did it as an audio drama, and then I rewrote it again as a new streaming series, which is called Trap City of Angels, which has a lower budget but a bigger world. And then that was still challenging for me to get the funding for because COVID hit, and then we had the SAG strike, and then all the other stuff that came about with that. And then I said, okay, well, I can just stop, right? I mean, I have other projects that I've been writing, but I said no. But God put it on my heart to keep telling this story. So instead of putting it down, which means I lose momentum, I then wrote the book of it. And so why I'm saying that is because sometimes we as entrepreneurs get these big ideas, and the idea is so big that no one else can see it but us, and the world is not ready, um, you know, for us to give it. But it doesn't mean you need to put it down. So you have to always think in different ways. How else can I make an impact with this same idea? How do I pivot? So Trapped is now out in the world as a book because I wasn't afraid to pivot when finances became the obstacle to my creativity.
Oh wow! Thank you for adding that because you could have stopped anywhere along that way. You could have said this was a great idea, but it wasn't supposed to happen. How many times have we said that to ourselves, and we stop it right there? Exactly. So thank you for that. Okay, so let's talk about your work. Your work is amazing. The book,
Thank
the
you.
films, the work that you do with others. How do you hope that someone who picks up Trap maybe and read it right now, how do you hope that it will impact their lives?
Hold on one second. I'm just going to charge my phone because it looks like it's doing something a
Okay.
little wonky.
Okay.
Okay. Um, I hope Trapped impacts people's lives in the way that it will make people understand that they are more than just um, material wealth. I hope that they will see Jasmine's trauma, or her journey from her trauma to triumph, her journey from pain to purpose, in an impactful way in their own lives. Jasmine is a very dynamic, complex, amazing woman, and like all of us, she struggles with imposter syndrome. She struggles with traumas that are specific to her, and we watch her make steps forward, and then we see her make steps back, and we also see her make steps sideways, and ultimately she will find her way to her promised land. And I think it's important that people capture that understanding, that all because you see the finish line in your mind and in your heart, it doesn't mean that you're going to get there immediately, and it doesn't mean you're going to get there in a linear path. So you have to be open to how things unfold, and you have to be malleable. I think that's the key for enjoying life, and you have to look at things with a sense of levity as well, because sometimes it just seems as if God is smiling down and laughing at us.
I love that. I love that. So I want to talk about here, Michael. There's someone that is listening to this incredible story. I could just talk to you over and over and over again. But they have a dream and they're hoping they want it to happen. They're talking about it with everybody, but they just have been stuck. They're just hesitant to just taking the first step. So what advice would you give to someone in that place right now?
Well, that's easy. Take the first step, whatever the first step is. You want to write a cookbook, but you think there's too many cookbooks out there. Think about what your favorite, you know, dishes and write it out, and then keep going. You think that, you want to do whatever your business is, opening up another clothing brand, or, you want to create your own space station, on Mars. Take the first step. Right now, there is so much technology with AI that is making that first step so much easier. There are times when I just don't have it in me to write. And I now will go to GPT or whatever other AI that I use and just plug in. I don't want to write today, but I need to get 10 pages out. I If I do write, I kind of want to write about this. This is on my mind. This is on my heart. Get me started. And it will give me a paragraph and get me started. And it'll give me a paragraph. And because because I like to edit, it'll spit something out and I'll go, oh no, but this isn't right. And then that starts me writing. You have to figure out what, for anyone who's entrepreneur and an artist, it's so important that you figure out where your weaknesses are, if it's self-motivation, if it's self-starting, and how to pull yourself out of that. And I find one of the fastest ways to pull yourself out of it is to just do it. It's to just do it. Start. One page a day, one line a day, one sentence a day, whatever it is, just do it.
I love that, because once you take that little step, and I hope everybody got that, it's just do it. It don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the perfect plan on the wall. Everything has to be in order. You just have to do something. And once you do something, you're going to do something else and do something else. And before you know it, your dream is happening. Thank you so much. You have been so inspiring.
I was going to say, perfectionism is procrastination. That's what it's procrastination masked as goodness. But you cannot be an artist and be a perfectionist. You can't, because so much of the beauty and innovation comes out of making mistakes.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that. Love this whole entire conversation. Thank you so much for being willing to just share your heart. I cannot wait to others hear this, because it's going to inspire so many people. But before we leave, I'd like for you to just share what's next for you, what we can look forward to, and let our audience know how they can stay connected and support you.
Oh, thank you. So what's next for me is the release of the other book, Trap City of Angels Part 2. And then I have a book coming out for young boys called Life Break Free Win, which speaks to spiritual principles to help them live their best life. And that's coming out in January. And then of course the Trap City of Angels first season, which will be going into production sometime early 2026.
Oh, wow.
And to keep in touch with me, you can follow me at michaelcorydavis.com. You can get the Trap book on Amazon, the audio book on Spotify, as well as Audible, and trapcityofangels.com. You can stay up to date with the community there.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for opening your heart and sharing your journey. You gave us so many tips and tools that we can apply right now. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me. You take care.
All right. And thank you to our audience for joining us for the Melissa Banks Show. I hope today's conversation with Michael Cory Davis reminded you that your dreams are within reach, no matter where you're starting. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, saying your journey is unique. Your dreams are valid, and you have the power to design a life you love. So keep believing, keep growing, and keep shining. Until next time.